guys, this is Suri and this is Scrumptious. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning to the channel, thank you. It's always great to have you. And today we're going to talk about this very sweet, this very poignant movie from one of my favorite genres, of course, feel-good cinema. And if you have seen the thumbnail and seen the title, you've probably guessed this movie is about Lapataa Ladies. It is made by Kiran Rao and it is set in rural India, and it is a phenomenal take at what I would call poignant Indian storytelling. It is comical, it is sweet, it has new actors, it also has some seasoned actors, and it is basically this powerful cast of people who are doing really good work in what would be considered a very simple story. But what makes it phenomenal is how the story is told and how the actors have taken the cue from the director and basically contributed to a narrative which explains the goodness in humanity and the identity of a woman. Now, the title itself, Lapataa Ladies, you'll see the word Lapata used in India in the way that you see missing poster, like this person's missing, Lapata, from so-and-so time. But Lapata, the word itself, I think this was intentional, is also, it's a comical breakdown. La is without and Pata is address. And they're basically talking about women without an address or women without a home. Now, in certain parts of India, when a girl is married off, a woman is married off, she's considered off her in-laws or off her husband. She is not considered part of her family that she's born into anymore. There's this very dated saying, ladki paraya dhan hoti hai, or a girl or a woman is a stranger's wealth and is not to be considered your own, basically. And the movie in many ways keeps talking about how this plays into society to the point that it gets normalized, that women, not only when they leave home, they are kind of in many ways expected to sever ties with the family that they were born into, but when they go to this new home, it is not really theirs. It is their husband's. It is their husband's identity that they take on. And while this movie is not this movie is, and this is why I love this film, and I'm finding it hard to pick the right words for this. This movie is not a lecture on feminism or on misogyny or just in general about, it's not a take on society. This movie is a story about people discovering in many different ways how society defines their behaviors, how society nudges and determines the outcome of their lives, and how sometimes when you're a woman with limited resources, you still have the power to take back your power. You still have the power to decide your path in the journey, whatever that path is set for you or whatever the path you set for yourself. So the movie is very comical, and it starts off by showing this young couple who's newly married, and they're basically leaving the girl's home. And they're saying goodbye to the family, and the girl is dressed in this beautiful bridal wear, and she is she's very cute and naive, and she's following her husband, and he's dressed like in suit and pants, but she is dressed in the Hindu getup. Now, the Hindu getup changes from bride to bride, from city to city. Every couple of kilometers, you'll see a different garb. So I'm going to use that term very loosely. The Hindu bridal garb generally has the auspicious colors of like red and green and yellow. And in this particular case, she's wearing the traditional red sari. She's wearing a red stole, a red dupatta, or a red ghungat, which also works as a veil. So it covers your face. And she is, following her husband, and she trips as she's following him. Now, somebody says something from the background which sets the tone of the entire movie. They say, now that you're wearing the bridal veil, look down so that you don't trip, because if you look ahead, you will not be able to gauge your steps. So look down and assess the terrain, basically. So she follows her husband into the train, and there they see that there are three other couples who are also newly married, who also have, brides in red garbs and red veil and red saris, and you cannot see their faces, and you can only see the groom's faces. Now, at some point, on some station, Deepak, one of the protagonists of the story, gets off the train. So basically the groom of the girl that we are following, whose name is Pool. Now, it is important to keep in mind that it is possible that my brain is trying to find poetry in everything because of how lovely the story is. But Deepak means a lamp that basically gives light. So it's in Diwali and in all the beautiful festivals of India, you will light a lamp, you light a earthen small pot which you put oil in and a cotton wick and you light it, and it's called Deepak or Diya or Deva. And it is basically setting up the premise of who this character is. And he is this very sweet, very gentle man. And he gets off the train and he taps, the bride's knee, and he goes, okay, let's get off now. And this, bride follows him. And he reaches home, and the family greets them and said, you're here, you're married, you're here, this is awesome. And they finally tell the girl, you can lift your veil now, it's just family. So the girl lifts her veil, and it turns out it's not the girl he married. It's not the girl he was traveling with, it's someone else. And when they ask, where's Pool? Where's your bride? And Deepak is completely confused. He doesn't know where this woman came from. And she's wearing exactly the same sari, the same veil as his wife, which explains why the confusion happened. So the lady says, my name is Pushpa Rani. Now, this is why the movie is kind of cute. Pool means flower. So Deepak, the protagonist who he marries, the heroine of the story, her name is Pool, which means flower. The girl that he accidentally brings home instead of his wife is Pushparani, which also means flower or queen of the flowers. And the village that they are in is called Surajmukhi, which means sunflower, or the land of the light. So everything in the story is poetic and cute and has purpose and meaning, and it also goes to show that men are called sources of light and sun and Deepak, and women have to be beautiful and cute and delicate and dainty like flowers. So their names are Pool and Pushparani. So society, in this scene, you get to see that society is setting up the destinies of people on the basis of their gender from their birth. My parents were very insistent on giving me a long name, a musical name, but a long name. And the intent was not for me to sound delicate or for me to sound feminine or anything. The intent was that it should be a good name. It should be a name that resonates, that is powerful, that helps her define her identity. And not all daughters have that privilege. Not all daughters are born to parents whose priority is the daughter's well-being, rather than the societal rules or the societal expectations of a family that is raising a daughter. And this movie emphasizes that in different forms. So as Deepak is realizing that he has clearly, in some weird fashion, abducted someone else's wife, his wife is abandoned somewhere in some train. She wakes up on a station called Patila, and she has absolutely no idea where she is headed. And because this is a very traditional rural setting of a story, she is also unaware of where she is, um, of where she was supposed to go. So she doesn't even know the name of the village that her husband or her new husband was taking her. So as she gets off the station, she meets this woman who basically sells tea and samosas and snacks on the station. And her name is Manju. Now, bear in mind, theme is still recurring. Manju means pleasant and kind and graceful, and basically attributes feminine or stereotypically considered feminine attributes. But she's like a force of nature. And I think the actress's name is Shaya Kadam. She basically does this role with such tenacity and such beauty that you cannot take your eyes off of her. Her name is Manju. She's lovingly called Manju Mai. And there are people on the station that see that this girl is completely lost and she's in her bridal wear and she does not know what to do. So they help her. And these two men who basically take her to Manju Mai and say that, hey, can you help her out? She's lost and she can't find her husband. And Manju Mai asks her the obvious question, like, okay, where was your husband headed? What village was he going to? And she goes, well, I don't know. And then it's like, from where did you come? And then she tells her the name of the village that she came from. Say, like, okay, do you have a phone number or I don't know, some way to get back to your family so that they can inform the husband's family that, you're stranded here? And she goes, no, I don't have their phone number. So basically this girl is brought up in this very protected shell. And like a lot of, daughters are. I was brought up very protected. And she has absolutely no idea where she is and what she's going to do. And Manju basically has this lovely speech where she says, women are sold this fraudulent concept of being the good girl. And in that process of being good, they become stupid. And the girl gets really upset by that comment. Like, no, I wasn't raised stupid. I was raised to be good. I was raised to be a good wife, a good mother. So no, you were raised to be stupid, because how can you not know the name of the village that you were going to go and live the rest of your life in? And the only thing she can say is, it was called after a flower, and she has no recollection of what that flower is. So they start listing all the flowers down, and it's none of them. Now, on the other side, you see this girl whose name is Pushpa Rani, who is very bold and outspoken and very odd. So when they sit her down and they ask her, like, can you tell us, where you're from? And then she, says, oh, I'm from so-and-so town, I was headed somewhere. And she has no idea, again, in the same fashion as Pool, as to where she was headed. And then the father of the protagonist, Deepak, asked this girl, do you know, well, what is your husband's name? Maybe we can find out. And all the women go, she cannot ask her to take her husband's name, because that apparently is a thing where you do not take your husband's name as a sign of respect. My mother once very jokingly told my father that she's going to start calling him, by terms of endearment, but not by his name, as a sign of respect. And he got immediately angry and told her to stop behaving that way. But it is an odd tradition that exists in certain parts of India, where you do not take your husband's name as a sign of the respect for the marriage or the man of the house. But this girl, Pushpa Rani, basically says his name is Pankaj, and everybody gasps and is shocked that she took her husband's name. But then she's also trying to make a point, without my husband's name, how are you going to help me find this person? So I don't want to get into the movie and get into spoilers, but it becomes very evident that Pushpa Rani is not who she says she is. There is this brilliant role played by Ravi Kishan, where he plays the local police in Deepak and Pushpa Rani's, where they're set in the village. And he is suspicious that she's part of a gang that basically robs grooms and takes their money and the jewelry and runs away. And they have a theory that she might be part of the gang. And there's this poignant scene in the movie where she's eating something and she thanks Deepak's mother for being such a good hostess to her, and says that this meal is amazing, that I love this food that you've made. And the woman immediately says, is appreciating food like even required? It's food, like just eat it. And she goes, but it's good, it's a skill you have, you should be proud of it. And the lady then says that she's not made that meal for years because her son and her husband don't like to eat. Wow, I'm just realizing it's a lotus vegetable. It's made of lotus stem, which again is a flower. So she says that her mother used to make it with garlic and she loved it, but after she got married, she stopped making it because the husband and the son did not like eating it. And Pushpa Rani in that moment says that, well, then you should make it for yourself. Why not just cook for yourself? And the lady says, well, can we make things that women like in this house? And that question is it's so, again, it's not a rant on misogyny, it's not a rant on feminism, but they're talking about customs and traditions which normalize the expectations of a woman to be dependent on pleasing others. Not necessarily men, just pleasing anyone but herself. And in that, you get to see these lovely characters like the sister-in-law of Deepak, where she's a sketch artist. She can draw sketches very quickly from memory. You see Ravi Kishan, that plays a local police officer, giving what I would consider just an amazing performance, showing a large spectrum of how humanity reacts and responds when they're in the middle of greed and corruption. You get to see the beautiful landscape of India. You get to see this very serene and beautiful little villages that just highlight that India is so diverse and so gorgeous, and that's why the stories are so diverse and so gorgeous. And I urge that each one of you watch this movie. I urge that you get to follow Pool's journey from the perspective of Manju Mai, who basically sees her over the 5 days that she's stranded on that station, how she kind of adapts to the situation and is very hopeful that her husband will find her one way or the other. And you also get to know that in the wedding picture of Pool and Deepak, the only photo that Deepak has of her is where her face is covered with a veil. So when he goes to the police station and he hands over that photograph, he's like, well, I can't tell who she is from this. And that's the point of the whole story, that we are so obsessed with tradition that we sometimes forget that erasing a person's identity or preventing a person's identity from coming out actually causes more trouble. It actually causes more harm than does any good. And that's kind of what the story is. So please check it out. Please let me know what you think about it. It is a great movie. It has a fantastic ending. The mystery around Pushpa Rani's identity is revealed in a very beautiful way. And you also get to see how stories can truly be about the concept of the human existence rather than, trying to like make a lecture of things. This movie is not a lecture. This movie is a true testament to the fact that if you believe in the goodness of humanity, if you believe in the concept that not all human beings are bad, if you're not cynical in your heart, if you don't have a dark view of society, you will basically be able to be reassured through the story that may in fact be true, that there is goodness in humanity. So please check it out. Please let me know what you think about it. And I will see you soon. This is Crunches. Bye.